On January 22, 2008, the world stopped. News broke from New York. Heath Ledger, Australia's own son, the boy from Perth who had conquered Hollywood, was gone at just 28. Found alone in his Manhattan apartment, surrounded not by cameras or applause, but by bottles of prescription pills, his sudden passing sent shockwaves across the globe. How could someone so alive on screen vanish so quietly in real life? Only months earlier, Heath had delivered the role that would define him forever, the Joker in The Dark Knight. His chilling grin, his haunting voice, his infamous line, "Why so serious?" all etched into cinematic history. But what audiences didn't see was the toll, the sleepless nights, the exhaustion, the price of diving too deeply into the mind of madness. From the school stages of Perth to the grand spotlight of Hollywood, Heath Ledger's story was one of meteoric rise and tragic fall. But behind the legend lies a question that still lingers. What does it mean to give everything to your art, even if it consumes you? Heath Andrew Ledger was born on April 4, 1979 in Perth, Western Australia, a city far removed from Hollywood's glittering lights. His childhood carried a mixture of warmth and turbulence. His parents' divorce left an early mark, teaching him both independence and resilience. Yet, even as a boy, Heath seemed restless, searching for an outlet where imagination could run free. That outlet became performance. At Guildford Grammar School, he discovered the stage. Acting wasn't just a hobby, it was escape, purpose, and joy all at once. By the age of 10, he played Peter Pan in a school production, a role that hinted at his future, forever chasing the magic of transformation. As a teenager, Heath resisted the ordinary path. While his peers prepared for stable careers, he dreamed bigger. At 17, he left Perth for Sydney, chasing auditions with little more than determination and raw talent. Television roles soon followed. Sweat, home and away, where his charisma couldn't be ignored. But even then, there was something different about him. He wasn't content with fame for fame's sake. He wanted to challenge himself, to inhabit characters fully, to prove that an Australian boy could stand on the world stage. Every step forward was fueled by that hunger. And little did anyone know, Hollywood was already waiting. By the late 1990s, Hollywood had noticed the tall, blonde Australian with piercing eyes. Heath Ledger's breakthrough came with 10 Things I Hate About You, 1999, a teen romance that turned him overnight into a heartthrob. The scene where he sang "Can't Take My Eyes Off You" across the school bleachers made audiences swoon, branding him as the charming rebel. Yet Heath feared being trapped in the role of a pretty face. He wanted more, and he pursued it with fearless ambition. Roles in The Patriot alongside Mel Gibson and A Knight's Tale soon followed, proving his range. But it was Brokeback Mountain, 2005, that changed everything. As Ennis Del Mar, a quiet cowboy tormented by forbidden love, Heath delivered a performance so raw, so human, that it silenced skeptics. Critics hailed him as one of the greatest actors of his generation, and the Academy nominated him for Best Actor. With that film, Ledger stepped beyond stardom. He became an artist, and just 3 years later, he would embody a character that defined modern cinema. The Joker in The Dark Knight, a role so powerful it blurred the line between acting and possession. The world had never seen anything like it. Behind the cameras, Heath Ledger longed for something simple: love, stability, a family to call his own. His romances were often splashed across headlines, but one stood apart. On the set of Brokeback Mountain, he met actress Michelle Williams. Their connection was immediate, tender, and real. two young artists finding comfort in each other's chaos. In 2005, they welcomed a daughter, Matilda Rose Ledger. Friends said fatherhood changed him. Heath glowed when holding his little girl, often saying she was his anchor in a world that spun too fast. Photographs of him cradling Matilda captured a softness far removed from his brooding screen personas. For a while, it seemed he had found balance. But fame is rarely gentle. The relentless schedule, sleepless nights, and pressures of his career strained the relationship. By 2007 now, Heath and Michelle quietly separated. The media painted him as a troubled figure, often seen wandering the streets of New York alone. Yet those close to him knew he remained devoted to his daughter, writing letters and calling whenever he could. It was the cruel irony of his story, a man adored worldwide, yet wrestling with isolation in his private life. After the triumph of Brokeback Mountain, Heath Ledger's career should have been a steady climb. Instead, the weight of expectation pressed heavily. He had earned a reputation as a method actor, throwing himself completely into roles. But this immersion came at a cost. The deeper he went, the harder it became to step back into ordinary life. When he took on the Joker in The Dark Knight, Heath locked himself away for weeks, filling notebooks with disturbing thoughts, experimenting with voices, and slipping into the twisted psychology of chaos. His brilliance was undeniable, but so were the consequences. Friends noticed he was restless, unable to sleep, relying on sleeping pills to find just a few hours of rest. Nights turned into battles with anxiety. Days blurred into exhaustion. The breakup with Michelle Williams only deepened the shadows. The tabloid press followed him relentlessly, labeling him reckless, suggesting depression and drug abuse. Heath often dismissed the rumors, but his weary eyes told another story. He admitted in one interview, "I'm not sleeping, my body is exhausted, and my mind is still going." Behind the acclaim, behind the genius, stood a young man quietly unraveling, too proud to ask for help, too consumed by his art to slow down. January 22nd, 2008. A housekeeper entered Heath Ledger's apartment in Manhattan and found him unconscious, lying in bed as if in uneasy sleep. Moments later, a massage therapist arrived, and together they realized the unthinkable. Hollywood's rising star was gone. Scattered nearby were bottles of prescription medications, sleeping pills, anti-anxiety tablets, painkillers, none taken with malice, but together a fatal mix. He was only 28. News spread within minutes. Crowds gathered outside the apartment, stunned reporters struggling to find words. In Australia, it was early morning when the headlines reached Perth. Families, neighbours, and childhood friends wept for the boy who had left home with big dreams and returned only in memory. For his parents, for Michelle Williams, for little Matilda, who was far too young to understand. The grief was immeasurable. Hollywood paused. The premiere of The Dark Knight would arrive months later, but its star would never see the legacy he had created. There is something unbearably cruel about brilliance extinguished at its brightest moment. The world lost not just an actor, but the promise of decades of performances never to be. The applause he earned could no longer reach him. In the wake of Heath Ledger's passing, the world searched for meaning in what he left behind. His final, complete role, the Joker in The Dark Knight, became more than a performance. It became legend. Audiences sat in cinemas stunned, whispering that they had never seen a villain portrayed with such terrifying humanity. The film broke box office records, and critics hailed his Joker as one of the greatest characters in film history. Then came the Oscars of 2009. Heath was posthumously awarded Best Supporting Actor, as his name was called. The room stood in solemn tribute. His family accepted the golden statue on his behalf, dedicating it to his daughter, Matilda. In that moment, the triumph was bittersweet. The world celebrated his genius, even as it mourned the silence of his absence. For Australians, Heath remained a source of pride, a reminder that a boy from Perth could leave an indelible mark on global cinema. For artists, he became a cautionary tale about the price of total devotion to one's craft. And for audiences everywhere, his work lived on, ensuring that while his life ended too soon, his presence would never truly vanish. Heath Ledger's story is not simply about tragedy, it is about the fragile beauty of a life lived in pursuit of art. He gave himself completely to his craft, shaping characters that will echo through generations. Yet in giving so much, he revealed a haunting truth. Brilliance often walks hand in hand with burden. Today, his smile still flickers across cinema screens, his voice still chills us in the dark night, and his tender silence in Brokeback Mountain still breaks hearts. He left behind not just performances, but lessons. That fame cannot protect one from loneliness, that talent does not shield against exhaustion, and that sometimes the brightest lights burn out far too quickly. But Heath's legacy endures in his daughter Matilda, who carries his spirit forward, and in the millions who continue to discover his work anew. Perhaps the question his story leaves us with is this: how do we honor those who give everything to their art? By remembering them not for the way they left, but for the life, love, and inspiration they shared. If Heath Ledger's journey moved you, share this story, leave your thoughts below, and subscribe for more untold legacies. For some stars, though gone, never truly fade.